The star of the CFL on TSN is here. Everybody's giving kudos and congratulations to a wonderful broadcast last night.
It was a lot of fun. The show, Kate and Milt did a great job on it, and it was just it was well done as it always is. And it was kind of there was a little bit of a faux pas in that they did the bit with Bo Levi winning the comeback award. They created this comeback award, and then he came up like he won it, and really Eugene. It was all just a joke, and it got on SportsCenter.
That's a mean prank.
It was kind of funny, but when you think about it going on SportsCenter, because whoever did it must not have known that there's no comeback award in the CFL.
Wow. Well, okay. We might as well get into the Bo thing now. I don't know why I care so much, because I really don't like him and he really doesn't like me, but I'd have voted for him. You've actually convinced me maybe why, and you've admitted you didn't vote for him.
No, and I'm sharing the panel with him on the field with James Duthie. We have a 3-person panel, and Bo will be with me, but I evaluate quarterbacks differently than other positions. You know, Brady Oliveira can run and catch and do all those things, and that's what he does. But a quarterback, the great quarterbacks I've been around, and Bo's a great quarterback, but the players around them, they bring their level up. And I just don't think you can say a guy is the most outstanding quarterback when his team doesn't make the playoffs, because that guy makes people around him better. And I think that happened the second half of the season. Now, obviously, Chris Jones coming in and helping that defense helped a lot, because there's not much you can do as a quarterback to help your defense. But you can, again, they had a lot of problems early in the year, and that caused them to not make it. But I just evaluate that position differently than I do any other, and that's why I voted for Brady. And again, he's an outstanding player. Last year, I thought Chad Kelly did exactly what a quarterback does. He brought the level of the players around him up when they went 16-2 in the regular season, and he deserved to win that award. This year, I felt like Brady deserved to win the award, and he won the Outstanding Canadian also.
There you go. I'm going to get to the viewer questions in a moment. Jim's been gracious enough. I'll keep you for 2 segments, if that's okay. And I'll get to your viewer questions in a moment. But it's a 10.5-point line. Winnipeg Blue Bombers favored over Toronto. I feel like it's scaring fans off that it's not a sexy matchup. It's not expecting a tight game. How do you feel about this matchup?
Well, it's a very interesting matchup. I think in Nick Arbuckle, people think, well, we have a guy who has not been playing, but he has 25 starts in the league. Ryan Dinwiddie, when he did this in 2007, had 0 starts. So it was a totally different, that was his first start ever in the Grey Cup game. Nick Arbuckle has started big games before, so I think that he'll be a little better than what people think. Plus, he's got Ryan Dinwiddie, who I think is right now maybe the best play caller in the league. He's doing just a phenomenal job with giving his guys a chance doing what they do. I think it's going to be interesting to see if they dress Isaiah Cage this week, because I think running the ball becomes so critical for them. It's their defense is up against it tough. They're the number 2 run defense in the league, the Argos. So if they can stop Brady Oliveira, the problem is they number 1 in giving up big plays. And Kenny Lawler and Nick Dembski. Dembski I have picked for my anytime touchdown, because I just think he's a tough matchup for them. They got Tunde Adeleke has moved up, and he and Mechie roll back and forth as to who's going to cover number 3, which is Dembski. And I like that matchup for Nick. And again, they have to stop the big play, and they stop the run. If they can do those things, give them the intermediate passes. I think there's, Zach's going to throw a few interceptions if he's trying to throw a lot of intermediate passes. That's how they can stay in the game. And then offensively, I do believe they have to run the ball. And is our offensive line going to be able to handle the defensive front of Winnipeg? Again, they're one of the best running teams in the league, and they have, I think Deontay McMahon, Kadeem Carey's backup, Adebaboye. Those guys are solid players that give them a change-up, different kind of look. But I think that's a crucial part for them, which now takes a little of the pressure Because if they pressure Nick Arbuckle and he takes sacks and he's not getting comfortable, it's going to be a long, long day for the Argos. They have to be able to get into a rhythm.
There's your breakdown, everybody. That's the first, because you're going to be saying it a million times all weekend. The Bomb writes in from Toronto and says, ask Jim who the X-Factor player is for the Argos. He just mentioned a few. Jeff, the Stamps fan, wants to know if you've heard anything about who will fill the Stampeders coaching vacancies. Any buzz on that?
I have not heard one word coming out of Calgary. Obviously, there's a lot of rumors going around about BC and Edmonton. Have not heard one word about Calgary. So I'm sorry about that, but there just hasn't been any leaks about who's, obviously Dave Dickinson's going to hire his brother Craig as the special teams coach. But in terms of defense and what they're going to do there, haven't heard a word. I know Ottawa's now looking for a defensive coordinator. As they've let go of Baron Miles. You have Mark Washington out there. Again, does Orlando Steinauer want to go back to being an assistant? That you don't know. But there's some quality guys out there, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with these jobs.
Would you agree there are more quality coaches than there are jobs available? So they'll get somebody good.
He's going to get somebody good, and it's tough because when you don't work with people, it's hard to hire a guy. You just don't know exactly, how's he going to deal with the players, and is he going to be on the same page as me? And that's the difficult part. The hardest thing about hiring people is getting people that can fit into the things you're trying to do. And they can be in a situation that they're able to be themselves and excel at it, but in your system, maybe they can't. I've seen that happen numerous times. So hiring coaches is a difficult task. And when you let go of coaches, normally you have a real good idea what you're going to do. So obviously, I think Dave, with special teams, knew what he was going to do. But I'm sure in the back of his mind, he had a good clue of what he wanted to do with defense.
Robert Campbell in Las Vegas. Are we calling that your hometown?
Well, yeah, that's where my kids are.
Right, yeah, but he says, Bo is a great player, but I've never heard of a most outstanding player being benched during the season for poor play. I agree that Brady was the right choice for most outstanding player. It's a hot topic, and it's fun to discuss. I hope people don't get their feelings hurt, but you know what's going to happen no matter what. So I don't really care about that. The other fun discussion is the quarterback carousel. Ran into Vernon Adams Jr. the other night, and he is smiling like the butcher's dog, because I feel like he knows he's in a very good spot.
Well, again, it's right now, I'm not sure he knows where he's going to go.
No, he doesn't.
I don't think it's interesting because Rick Campbell has said they haven't made a decision, but Nathan Rourke says he knows where he's going to be.
Right.
And that those things don't match up. And again, Vernon Adams he's a great guy and a great person, and a guy that when he gets in and he's given a team, that he's proven what he can do. I think this year was just with the injury and Nathan Rourke coming in, it was such an anomaly. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Does Calgary go on him, or do they put their eggs into DJ Walker and say, we're going to go with a young guy? He's 30, but he has played a lot of football. They saw him for 2 weeks. He got a chance to see him in the film room and things. So do they go after him? What happens in Edmonton? I mean, there's a lot of talk about Rick Campbell leaving the BC Lions and going to Edmonton in both an administrative, a GM or whatever, head coach role. Is Vernon Adams a guy he's going to bring? I know Vernon has a lot of respect for Rick. And, that would give them a lead into that if they were to go that direction. So where VA is going to go is really interesting. I think the Montreal situation with Davis Alexander and Cody Fajardo, I think that's a really interesting situation because it's very difficult to have two guys. It's like, can you pay one $300 and one $200 and then put $200,000 up for play time? Well, the problem is the players might have better options than that and not want to be into that situation because that's a tough deal. If you want to be able to be in a place where you're the guy. And will that happen for Davis Alexander? I go back to 2013 when we talked about it, when Kent Austin made just a gutty, ballsy move, and he basically cut Henry Burris to take on Zach Collaros. And that Zach Collaros has played a few more games than Davis Alexander, but they've shown very similar. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if somebody, Saskatchewan, Trevor's 38 years old. Do you stay with Trevor and continue to develop either a Shea Pedersen or another young guy? Or do you say, you know what, we're going a different direction? Those are the kind of moves that, can make and break you. They're difficult, tough things. They're great, like especially in Saskatchewan, Rod. Those fans can go nuts over that. What should we do?
They already are. They can. They are. But we don't have time in this segment. We'll carry it over into the next segment. But they're saying, the Rider fans, God bless them, I love them, they want two quarterbacks, Trevor Harris and the next guy. And it's like, it doesn't work like let's go get Trey Ford or let's acquire VA. No, the quarterbacks don't want that.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
Well, I think it's what options do they have? So Trey Ford. So he right now, who knows who's going to be in Edmonton, but if they were to bring VA in, is Trey Ford going to go there and be behind VA, who's for sure starter? I doubt it. Does he think about a Saskatchewan where, wow, I could go in there and potentially I've got, Trevor's going to be 39, and he had a phenomenal year. Don't get me wrong, Trevor had a great year, and I'm not saying they should move him. But what I'm saying is there comes a point, Corey Mace is coming off of changing an entire organization and giving them a belief. If anybody can do that kind of a move, Corey Mace can do that. He could bring Trey Ford in and say he's going to be our guy, or he could bring Davis Alexander in and say he's going to be our guy, and that city's going to get behind him, and that team's going to get behind him. Or he can say, you know what, Trevor's our guy, and they're going to be behind that. And that's what Corey has created for himself, which I think is a great thing.
We have viewer questions to get to, and we do need to talk about the vacant commissioner's role upcoming. One more segment with Jim Barker after this. CFL on TSN, Jim Barker, gracious enough to stay with us for one more segment. And I'll get to the viewer questions, but your thoughts on the commissioner vacancy, if you don't mind, who the next one will be?
Actually, I had not heard anybody. Mike Morreale, who has done a great job with the elite basketball and has played in the league, and is he ready for that? And I think you made a great point. Is anybody ever ready for that? But Mike is a guy that I've heard his name. Neil Lumsden is a really interesting name. He's the Minister of Sport in Ontario now, and he's political, which you have to be. I don't know about the sales side. I think that's a big part of that job, is trying to increase the value of the franchises. I honestly believe that was probably the ultimate, and for Randy Ambrosie he wasn't able to increase the value of the franchises. And so they need somebody who can forward think enough to be able to do that. And the league is as strong now as it's ever been because of great owners. And Randy Ambrosie needs to be applauded for that, because that this group of owners, they do it right. And Amar Doman with this Grey Cup setup is proving this is
awesome.
It's the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
And when you have great owners, these are the kind of things that happen.
I've said it on yesterday's program. This reminds me of last year's Super Bowl in Las Vegas. All of the setup, and that's where I met your beautiful daughter, Holly. Did she mention that?
That's right. I still have the picture. Yeah.
A story for another time. She's a pit boss at the Bellagio. Yeah. And she goes, what can I help you with here this week? Did she tell you this?
No.
I said, I don't drink, I don't gamble, and I don't carouse. You should just in her face. She's like, what are you doing here? I'm here for a football game. And so she was like, I can't really help you. It was fun. Thank you for the hookup. Yeah. Great gal. Where is it? Rob in Vegas asks if you'd be interested in the commissioner's job.
That is a job I can tell you unequivocally I would have zero interest in being the commissioner. That's just not, it's just not something that I haven't. I don't know that I'd be very good at it, and I wouldn't enjoy it. I don't think so. Not something I would have an interest in.
Paul in Humboldt, Saskatchewan says, if the Bombers win, does Zach Collaros retire? If the Argos win, does Arbuckle become the next hot quarterback everyone wants?
Well, Arbuckle can certainly help himself. Zach, I think, is going to play one more year regardless of whether he wins or loses. We were talking this morning, TSN guys up in the breakfast room, about this game for Zach. You know, he's lost 2 in a row, and to go to 5 Grey Cups in a row is special. But if you lose the last 3 of them, it kind of tarnishes things. I think Zach for sure will be back next year because the Grey Cup's in Winnipeg. And I think that's something that he feels... I know he feels an affinity for those Winnipeg fans and wants to bring them a special Grey Cup. So I do believe he'll be back for sure next year, regardless of what happens. I believe he's probably under more pressure than anybody in this Grey Cup game because of the legacy. I mean, yeah, getting there 5 times is great, but when you lose the last 3, there's a lot of pressure on him, and I know in 22 when I was in Toronto and we beat them, he had a bad ankle, and again, people forget about that stuff. I mean, he could barely walk on it, and I thought he played valiantly, and again, they didn't win, and it just goes down as a loss, and that's one of the sad things is a guy guts it up and, like I say, plays valiant, doesn't win, and that's all it does. It's just another loss.
Well, why would he retire? He's the highest paid player in the league, which nobody talks about, but last I checked, he is. He's playing the game that he loves in a fantastic environment.
Right.
Why would he walk away?
And he's a football player.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes back to Steubenville, Ohio, and 61-1 in high school, and he loves playing football,
right.
And I would be stunned. I know that his health is important to him, but he's been 5 years now. Knock on wood. Who would have ever thought that he would have lasted 5 years without missing a significant amount of time? He's missed a game here and a game there, but has not missed a significant amount of time. And there's a lot to be said for that. And I'm so happy for Zach that he got away from that concussion stuff. And again, it's a great story. That to me is one of the great stories of this Grey Cup.
We're watching one of the greatest stories in CFL history, that is Zach Collaros. It's unfolded over the last 5 years, Jim, to be written off. He was written off by me. I don't mind saying it, because when we had him in Saskatchewan, he couldn't play.
The first game, Simone Lawrence, we're playing you. I was in Hamilton in 2019, and Simone Lawrence came along and hit him, and he was gone.
That was the end of it.
And I thought his career would be over. I really did. I mean, when you start dealing with the head, and, you know, Zach's got a family, a beautiful wife, great kids, and I know that's important to him, but, you know, he was able to get the proper treatment. Sylvia Passmore from a doctor who I also go to in Toronto.
She's a miracle worker.
She is a miracle worker. She absolutely is. And she helped him a lot with the whole concussion thing. And again, he hasn't had an issue with it since then. So, you know, I love watching the Zach Collaros story. To me, it's one of the great stories in this.
He's
CFL.
a great guy. He doesn't suffer fools. I enjoy that part of him. He can be mean and prickly, but guess what? So can I, and I bet you could be too on the wrong day.
I am. No, most days. I am.
Herb in Melville writes that he says Jim should be the next commissioner. He's so passionate about the league. We just addressed that, but what I will say is I do believe you're in the perfect role. And I'll tell you what, at a good time, because 9 million people watched the Grey Cup last year on TSN. This year you're on CTV. That should be exponentially more.
Could be. And with CBS in the U.S., it's a great opportunity. And I do love what I'm doing right now. I mean, this is to be able to share with a fan base like you have. I mean, to have the people sending questions in and things. I do love this league. I mean, this league is. It's professionally everything to me, and you know, I had opportunities to go. This league, I love watching it grow, but yeah, this is the kind of job where I can relate to fans from a view, not many people have been coach, general manager. I mean, I started as an assistant coach, worked my way up to being a senior VP. So I've seen things from every level, and understanding the contract things and the things players go through can give our fans a different look at things. And that, I enjoy being able to do that.
Well, see, I'll say this. I love going back and forth with the fans, too. For years, for decades, it was Rider fans, but now it's CFL fans across the country. Not a lot of media guys do. I don't know if it scares them or if they're afraid to not have the answer. I don't care. I'm a licensed interventionist and addiction recovery coach. I'm doing interventions on meth addicts and alcoholics and drugs. I can talk to a CFL fan. You know what I mean? It's nothing. It's fun. It should be fun, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, and you're in the perfect role, and I believe I am, too. It's a great association.
Yes, it is.
All right, Coach.
Thanks, Rod.
Thanks
I really
for coming
appreciate everything you've done for me and helping me get my message out, because that's what it's all about, being able to get your message out, and you've done that.
Feels good.
And I really appreciate it.
Break a leg this afternoon.
Well, this afternoon we have the luncheon.
Right.
Tomorrow, 4 hours on TSN of Grey Cup Saturday.
There you go, everybody.
4 hours, and then we have a 3-hour pregame show prior to the kickoff. It's just a lot of football.
He's the man. Okay.